Many of you may remember the famous AT&T commercial with the tagline, "Reach out and touch someone." Satya helped me recall that memory in this week's episode when he talked about his leadership framework. Satya uses the acronym AT&T, which stands for accountability, trust, and transparency. And while Satya's leadership framework didn't derive in any way from the global telecommunications giant, his message to sales leaders who care about making an impact on others certainly does. Reach out and touch someone. Let them know that you're there and that you care. And if you're looking to see the connection between AT&T, your 10 fingers, and the 10 people on your team, take a listen. Oh yeah, please let us know you're out there. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube, comment, like, and repost on LinkedIn. Let's go. Welcome to Coach2Scale, how modern leaders build coaching cultures. I'm your host, Matt Bonelli. Join me as we build a community of like-minded professionals who share the belief that effective coaching improves the performance of every team member. Our mission is to help leaders become better coaches. The Coach2Scale podcast is sponsored by Coachum, the world's first AI coaching execution platform that leverages evidence-based coaching to increase quota attainment. And with that, let's get started. Today's guest is one of the most liked and respected leaders I've come across in my career. He's got a phenomenal depth and breadth of experience building and leading teams in the United States, in India, and a lot of places in between. He's held leadership positions at companies of all shapes and sizes, including Oracle and NIIT. Currently, he's SVP and Global Head of Modernization at MLogica, where he's responsible for a lot of things: strategy, go-to-market, sales execution, alliances, technical pre-sales, and solution management. He wears a lot of hats. He's also the guy who took me to my first cricket match in Bangalore, India. Satya Bhandary, welcome to Coach2Scale.
Hey, Matt, thank you. Pleasure to see you and look forward to chatting with you.
All right. How about that go back to the what is the Royal Challengers we saw in the pouring rain in Bangalore? Remember that?
Absolutely. I think it was sad that you couldn't see the game, but glad that we got into the stadium and a little bit of the excitement of cricket that you see in India. So yeah, it was Royal Challengers of Bangalore, the home team of Bangalore team.
I still have the shirt many years later. All right. So Satya, you've been doing this for a while, and you've been doing it in different positions, and you've led a lot of people. You have a big following. I'm sure you've heard a lot of myths, though. What's a myth in this business, of coaching and leading people in sales that you believe is either misguided or maybe even be complete BS?
No, I guess, to me, I think it's an opportunity to learn both ways. I mean, normally people think coaching is one way, but to me, it's been always a learning journey both ways. To me, sharing experience and sharing something that worked for me when I started way back as an individual contributor. And there were many leaders, many individuals who personally influenced me both in professional and outside professional life. So I try to share all the time. Looks like that's kind of resonated very well. So to me, to begin with, I'll never say that I'm an expert, but I'm only saying that we are together in this journey. So and we are learning together. So if that is a myth that one can break, meaning I'm not the expert, but we are here together in this journey, and we have different roles to accomplish, but we learn from each other. I guess when I start that as a coaching session with anyone, that's helped me throughout in my life.
That's excellent. So, and I just want to paraphrase to make sure I'm understanding. The myth is that coaching is one way. The student learns from the teacher. The rep learns from the manager. And what you're saying is, no, no, no. We learn from each other, and we can share that across the team. And by doing that, the team gets better, right?
Absolutely, and it's not about, like I said, it's not about one way direction, because there is a mentor and a mentee. Both want to learn and achieve something, And so it's a lot of times it could be knowledge sharing, it could be personal experiences, it could be handling difficult sessions. As long as one is setting up an environment which is non-threatening,
Mhm.
an environment which is mutually respected, and obviously the coach always has a better mindset. But to me, it's never one way. It's always interactive session. So if a myth is coaching means it's a lot of learning, a lot of homework, a lot of it's only somebody just giving you in quoted words gyan. And no, I think it is both ways. So as long as one is minded, then I think to me the myth of one way learning is broken.
So I got to ask you, because when we first met years ago, I met you when you were leading an organization in Bangalore in India. And Satya, some of those folks will listen to this, but most of the folks, most of this audience hasn't been to Bangalore, India, and but they've led people here in the United States as you do now. Uh, how different is it? Like, what advice would you give to somebody who is going to go and live in Bangalore and do what they're doing here now, but they're just going to do it leading a team of people that are based there? How different is it?
Matt, you have come many times to Bangalore and different parts of India. Um, Definitely one of the most beautiful places, both in terms of the country as such, diversity that you find, and of course, talented people. But last but not the least, some yummy food that you get. Right.
Yes.
So
I love the food, but I got to tell you, after a week of it, it's like, I can't stop.
it's a bit, I mean, if you need spicy food, I think Bangalore now is a more of a cosmopolitan city. And I guess when you made your first trip, your imagination about India would have been totally different. The myths of a snake charmer, do you have airport, all kinds of things, to some of the most I would say the Fortune 500 have their large
Yeah.
bases in India now. There are people working around the clock, providing, it could be technical support, it could be inside sales, it could be some of the best brains in India, really, catering to large complex solutions globally. But to me, I was blessed to be amongst some of the most energetic crowd, because Matt, as you would recall, we were hiring a lot of class offs as well,
Yeah.
and people who had an MBA graduation. They did have various undergrads, which could be engineering, art, science, and so on, but they had a master's in disciplines like sales and marketing, finance, technical, and so on, computer science, and so on. So uh, everybody came with a purpose. Everybody came with most of them had their first job in life, uh, but what they had, they may not have had experience, but they had one unconditional quality, that was, I'm here to learn. I come with huge energy. I have no baggage, and the company that I work for, probably one of the best brands in the world. So I think there was more open to learning. What I learned was, at that time I had significant experience in field sales, but here is a talented pool which was really filled with high energy and passion to excel. So to me, I think the ability to pull together talented individuals, because Bangalore is known as one of the education hubs of the country. You have many leading educational institutions across all fields. But to keep the diversity in place, we hired people all across the country, and north, south, east, west. And so yeah, it was a great challenge to put together hundreds and thousands of people together, work in what we call in those days as the graveyard shift,
The
because
graveyard shift. Yeah.
because 80% of the crowd work for the North America, time zones. So literally, staying awake all through the night, keeping them engaged with the various kind of activities that really motivated and kept everyone eyes wide open. So it was a great challenge, but like I said, we could manage it thanks to great leadership from North America as well.
Yeah, and I think part of the gray hair that I have is because like going over to India, all those trips, and then working all night. But
Right.
you seem to avert the gray hair somehow. Kudos to you, the fountain
Big,
of youth. So Satya, do you have a lot of times as you gather these experiences over time, you start to form a playbook or a framework of leadership that's personalized, to the individual, like personalized to you. Do you have a leadership framework that you've made your own over the years?
sure. Like I said, I'm repeating one of the statements that I make. I was definitely blessed to work with some wonderful people, right? I was surrounded by some great people. So I think my first, uh, you know, uh, statement for anybody looking for leadership is surround yourself by positive people. It doesn't mean a lot of experience. It just means passion, talent, and someone who's constantly challenging you every single minute. So that I was blessed with. But to me, I have a leadership motto or a framework that I call the acronym is AT&T, not the large telephone company in the US.
Reach out and touch someone. Yeah.
Right. I should be getting some whatever. But AT&T stands for accountability, trust, and transparency. Now, this means huge to me. When I led small, medium, large teams, I always believe accountability starts with me and ends with me. What I mean to say is whether it's success or failure, whether it's goal setting or, whether it is building strategies, the success and failure of that starts with me, and I own responsibility. So that's why I say what I commit or what I expect from people, it starts with me. And that to me is accountability. And of course, you being in this field, you can take days of, sessions on what is accountability, but that's in a nutshell, A stands for.
So Satya, can I jump in there? We'll get to the other two in a second. Um, Two questions on accountability. The first question is, when you say accountability starts and ends with me as the leader of the organization, I respect that so much. I've been taught that way, and have tried to embody that also. But the question is, do you expect every leader in your organization, every person in your organization, to also have that same mindset? Meaning, accountability starts and ends with me. Meaning, everybody in the organization is saying that and has their own slice of accountability, or is it just, hey, you the leader, you have to take all the accountability?
When you're running large teams, it's not about yourself. It's about the people that work with you right from, top to bottom and bottom down. So if everybody had the same culture and they learn from you, right? I mean, so if I'm able to demonstrate that, that percolates down the layer. But the short answer to that is yes, I expect everyone to have that behavior. I have a great example to share.
Yeah, yeah. Love examples.
Yeah. So, for example, back in India days, we had some great momentum. We had some wonderful talent and contributions. People came over to North America because of their outstanding performance as a career journey. But there came a point in 2013 where the investments had to be moved back to North America. It was probably one of the difficult decisions in my life. About 500 plus people were impacted, but I tell you, I had about 43 managers, directs, indirects, in the management chain as leaders leading at least, a reasonable amount of people in their org structure. And at that critical moment, you know, every single manager, and I had decided that I'll be the last person to exit. So I will make sure that everyone finds a home before the deadline. So we didn't call it, didn't pull the plug on one single day. I was fortunate enough to negotiate with the leadership saying that, let me handle this, but give me some time. So, so we kind of, so every single manager said, look, I'm accountable for my team. I will not look for a job. I will make sure that everyone in my team finds a spot, and then only I'll exit. It's
Mm.
not about me. I know I will not have a job few months down the line, but it's more for people who work for me. I have to find a home. So that's a simple example of accountability where in uh, in the times of difficulties, each of them stood saying that, look, I'm accountable for each of these talented individuals, and I have to find a home, and I'll make every little effort to get them, rather than look for my own, next spot in career. So that's a little example for me, and that's really helped through.
Yeah, it's not a little example. I mean, it's a that's very very difficult for a lot of those folks. That's probably one of the most challenging uh, uh, scenarios that they've had to negotiate in their careers. Uh, Thanks for sharing, Satya. So the second question on accountability is, why is it so difficult? And let me frame it a little bit. When I talk about accountability now, let's talk about accountability to results. When I speak to managers and leaders all over the world and ask them what's the toughest part of their job, almost to a person, they'll say holding people accountable is the most challenging thing that they do. Why is it so difficult in your mind?
So I think, I know you said we will park the other two qualities of my leadership framework. But to me, it is most important, and I think it comes with trust, because if everyone believes that in a leadership that has um, more positives, more goals, more challenges that are that needs a collective addressing. I think a lot of times this accountability doesn't become one man giving direction. So a simple thing, Matt, you and I did that for years together. My goal was pasted outside my office door. Everyone knew that what I was accountable or responsible for, and every individual would go back and say that, okay, how much am I contributing to Satya's goal or a leader's goal? So it also translates to the transparency, but let's not get there right now. But yeah, accountability is so important simply because if you don't have people understanding that they're tasked with certain goals, and it's like peeling the onion, right? I mean, if every little or manager or an individual contributor, if they don't play a role, the larger goal always seems to be very distant. But if you break it down into smaller pieces and say that it could be hiring, it could be retention. A lot of times people think accountability is just a number, which is very important. But there are a lot of other flavors that go in that to get to that number. Like I said, it could be building your succession planning. It could be, providing recognition. And I've seen in my life, sometimes people just don't look for promotions or financial benefit, which is most important. I'm not saying that's not important, but even a simple, pat in the back to say that, hey, you did a great job today, that itself motivates a lot of people. So to me, accountability, like I said, uh, there is no direct answer to say why it is important. It is important because it's measurable parameters for various KPIs that you define for an individual based on the roles and structure. But as a leader who's at the helm, if you don't break it down to smaller pieces and make people accountable and understand that their role is important to get to the larger goal, uh, that is very crucial in any large success that we've kind of built over. And I'm sure you've played a major role in that as well, in communicating and advocating throughout the organization that we work together.
So I love the fact that why is accountability so difficult? And I think what you're saying is it's hard to be accountable to this big thing. But if you break it down and say, okay, this is what each person's accountable for. If you just basically do your job, right? There's kind of a phrase these days: do your job. Like if everyone does their job, it'll support the entire team.
Just to add, then it becomes more achievable, more doable. It doesn't look complex.
Not as scary. Yeah, no, it's not as intimidating when you break it down into the smaller chunk, which makes a ton of sense. And I also like where you went with it in regards to like hiring and succession planning and recognition, because those are means to get to the number, right? Can you talk a little bit about that? So, if I'm a manager and I'm not thinking about like hiring, and I'm not thinking about who if my top rep leaves, who's going to take his or her spot, or if I leave, who's going to take my spot. That impacts the business over the course of a year, right?
No, absolutely, Matt. Again, we are dealing with human beings. We are not dealing with machines. Everybody has aspirations. Everybody, they have their own goals and ambitions. So, as a manager, whether I'm leading a small team, each one comes with different ambitions in life. For some it could be their first goal. They're just learning, but they want to be, paraphrasing, or they want to channelize into a different role in life as they settle down.
Yeah.
So to me, understanding and acknowledging it, I think, if you recall, we had this Strength Finder book that we all went
Yeah.
through, and made people understand that in a team you have, just like five fingers are different, you have people with different talent, right? Acknowledging that is very, very important. So to me, I think, having people with the right set of goals and motivations is very crucial. And it could be a lot of times numbers are measurable, but these lot of these parameters are, they contribute to that. For example, somebody wants to be, you know, uh, uh, but sponsored for an educational program. I think we went out of the way and helped people to do that. You know, in the end, organization benefited, because here is the individual who's acquired new knowledge now, and now contributing, him or her, contributing to the organization's growth. But we went out of the way, put together certain, leadership or, learning path for people that they embraced. And today, I do see a lot of people remembering those times of how not just what they learned on the job was important, but also from an academic standpoint, some of the new traits and tricks that they learn is helping them as they have become some top leaders in the corporate world or their individual entrepreneur, journey. So to me, I think, yeah, so we used to have a one pager review as well. And in fact, I don't know whether you would recall some of the initiative that we built. And I personally know that, some of in my management contributed a lot to that. Was every manager we used to call it as employment engagement survey.
Yeah.
So where a manager was not just the numbers, performance, but also about the motivation. We would take feedback from every quarter. We would take feedback from the team members for their manager and the skip level manager, and then in the management team we would discuss and fix areas where we see there is a dramatic improvement needed. So those are some of the thoughts. So team member felt that he or she contributed in the goal setting in the larger cause of the organization. So they were always a part of. So as long as there was inclusion, you included them in the whole process. I think those are some of the recognition that we built in.
Excellent. And Satya, I took you off your cadence a little bit. So you're going through like the framework of AT&T: accountability, trust, and transparency. You talked about trust a little bit. I don't know if there's anything more you want to say about that, but can you close out the discussion on AT&T?
Sure. Trust is the second quality that I look for in my framework in trust, right? Um, um, I mean, I'm sure we all see phrases like talented employee leaves a company because of their managers, right? I mean, we have seen that many a time. They retain or they leave because anything that the organization builds as the core quality, that is seen in the immediate manager. If immediate manager, he or she doesn't translate the core value of the organization, then it becomes a, really it's on paper, or it doesn't translate to the lowest level. So to me, trust is most important. I'm not a micromanager, but I always believe that when you task people with accountability, which is my core value, and give them their space, they've always come out as winners. So my phrase is always, I trust you till you let me down, right? I will, okay. I mean, there were days when we were running inside sales. So there was a reason that we put a norm that everybody had to make 60 calls a day. So there are a lot of people who were against that. They said, hey, why should I do 60? I can do 40 calls and get you the numbers that you desire. So I said, yeah, go ahead and do it. If you feel that you have a better way to get to that number, go do it. So a lot of times people went, tried, they never successful, because they realized that activities drive activities, right? So they tried and they came back. So to me, I will allow you, I'll give you a lot more space. You do it the way you want, but there is accountability for a KPA that we draw. I'm not going to sit behind and measure you every single day, but always there to help you. So the the, the phrase there is, I will trust you till you let me down, right?
Mm.
And that's very important. And trust also, Matt, has helped me. Um, a lot of times when you're running a large organization, 1,000 plus people, it's very hard to get to the lowest level every single day, right? But at the same time, if they had the trust, they could walk into your office anytime to say that, hey, I'm having challenge. It could be anything. It could be personal, professional, right? If you have that, if you remove that fear, and if you know that your manager or your entire chain is all here to help,
Yeah.
I call that as a non-threatening environment. So I think, and I could, and a lot of times because of that trust, I could give a feedback to one of my team members or many team members directly without, have to really, polish it
Yeah.
or,
Right.
cushion it, right?
And that's a problem, right? And that's a problem that maybe it's because the trust isn't there, but managers sugarcoat the feedback. They give the feedback sandwich. Oh, Satya, you're the best in the world,
Yeah, yeah,
but you suck
yeah,
in this area. But
yeah,
I really love you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It takes
yeah.
away from what the message that really needs to be delivered. But if you have trust, you can just hit him with it
Absolutely.
in a
No,
because they know you're coming from a good place.
no, thank you for reminding me. We used to have a session called feedback session. So let's say at each manager, and at my level as well, I would do with my directs. Each manager, let's say they were running an 8 or 10 member team or a 15 member team, once a quarter, they will sit together and the manager will just listen. And you give feedback not just to a manager, but to your peer as well, to your colleagues as well, saying that, okay, 3 things I liked the most about you, 3 things I hated about you, or an area for you to improve. It could be simply, I mean, you would be amazed at the feedback that we heard. People said, I don't like your sense of dressing, or I always felt that, you come late to a meeting. Now, these are these are um, uh, feedback that you can give when you are in an environment where I trust that whatever you're saying, you're helping me to grow. And I always say feedback is the most important element, and that part of my trust framework is that that is the most valuable gift that you can give, whether it's a manager or your peer, simply because those feedback will help you go a long way. Because as a manager, a lot of times, if people don't give me feedback, then I'm thinking everything I do is the right way, but may not be the right way, and there may be a lot of things that I'm leaving just to chances. So, so to me, trust is very, very, very core to the framework.
And what about transparency?
So yeah, transparency again, accountability and trust. And transparency is most important because 95% of what I do, I mean, there are certain confidential stuff that you can't share with the larger audience. But uh, but to be transparent, saying that, okay, if I'm setting a goal, here is the reason behind. If I'm not promoting you, here is the reason behind. If I didn't give you, a kind of an additional incentives, but like, in the previous company that we worked with, getting to a club was a huge thing. A lot of times people would have had the similar metrics, but only one or two seats would be available, right? So when you actually judge whether it's promotion, whether it's recognition, you always want to be able to explain to people that here is the reason, rather than saying, I'm the manager, I decided, right? So transparency becomes very, very important in whether it is goal setting, whether it is some of the tasks that you look for people, whether it is a recognition, whether it is recognition, meaning it just doesn't mean only promotion, but it could be a lot more things to cover under that. So that becomes a very, very important thing. Like I said, setting my letting people know the goal that I'm chasing. A lot of times people know that if they are chasing goal A, you always build cushion to people and then say and make it unrealistic for them, and but they don't know what you're going after. So every manager, it started from me, would have their goals pasted on their office door or workstation, so that everyone knows that what each one is chasing and contributing. So transparency becomes very, very important, along with the two qualities that I said: accountability and trust.
Thanks, Satya. I'm kind of laughing because I'm just thinking that, we both worked a lot, many years before COVID, and we had workstations and cubes and office doors, and so now I think about if I was going to put, working from home, if I was going to put my goals on my office door, my wife would be like, "What the hell are you doing? Get that crap up. That doesn't look good. It doesn't meet the color scheme." Um,
Absolutely.
that's kind of funny. So
On a lighter note, it would have been a screensaver.
um, you know, I recall you really being a big believer in personal branding, and even the coaching, that the feedback sessions when you talk about how someone might dress, or someone showing up late for meetings, when especially when you're dealing with folks that were just out of university, right? This is their first job. They don't know. I mean, they might. I mean, I don't know how much I knew. To get that feedback is phenomenal. And you and I both worked with a guy, Dan Freund, who was very big on personal branding and wasn't afraid to give feedback about the things that we just talked about and some others. Um, and as a matter of fact, I remember Dan in one of the reps' cars, like going out in the field to make a call, and the rep had this car. He was making a ton of money, and he had this car, this nice car. Well, but it was really old, and it had like a hole in the floor, and the mat was covering the floor. And he said, "Hey, Oracle pays you a car allowance so that you drive a car that doesn't have a damn hole in the floor. Fix it, or I'm taking your car allowance away." Right. So, but and it's a funny story, but it also goes back to branding. Can you talk about the importance of personal branding and what that means to you? And then, do enough people pay attention to it?
But thank you for calling out Dan's name. I think, in his own words, great friend, a leader, and a coach that I've worked with, someone who really, rule of three, I'm just following that, if you recall. So, so Dan was responsible for quite a bit of, some of the initiative that we worked on with people. And I think I was fortunate that the previous company that I worked with, NIIT, was all about people. It is having positive regard for each other was, some of the things that we always advocated. And Dan just gave me the space to really practice that. I think when I say branding, a lot of times we say there is no I and it is always we. I remember when I was looking for a leadership position, a promotion in my space, uh, Dan did one important thing. So he spoke to all the people that worked with me and wanted to know what kind of, uh, basically my background, and what kind of value that I had, or impact that I had in their lives. Uh, so I was like, Dan never wanted to see my presentation, or he didn't want to hear my story. So he said, look, I know when you present, you will do a great job in calling out either, whatever percentage of growth and blah, 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 all the stuff. But I wanted to know how you've impacted lives. Right. So that's when he said branding is most important. It's not about you, it's about the people that you work with. Have you made differences to their life? And that resulting in, again, I go back to peeling of the onion, breaking into smaller tasks, treat every individual with respect and regard, understand what's going through them, what help or what support you can extend for them to get better. Right. So to me, that branding is huge. It's not about you, it's not about, always. It's important, individual brilliance is absolutely most important, don't get me wrong, but also about the people that you have worked with, or outside of your network as well, how much of a difference that you have made when they needed help.
Mm.
Uh, in my experience, I also say, sorry if I'm getting a little philosophical, but
No,
a
no.
lot of times the biggest problems are solved just when you listen to people. I mean, they just need a shoulder to, they just need someone to, listen to their side of the story. And a lot of times I've seen, just by listening, and I know one of the training that you guys advocated all through was, you have one mouth and two ears, so listen twice the time you talk. So a lot of time, just listening to people have had the biggest problem solving exercises that I've had in my life. So to me, that personal branding, not because you really wanted, people to suck up to you and, say good things about you, but they really mean it. So I think, and I mean, you and I talk about the good old days that we spent together. We talk about Dan. I mean, we have nothing to do with Dan today, but the good thing that he's done, it's long lasting. So whether it Dan or Sandeep or many of the leaders that we work, you yourself or Patricia and many of them, I will still, Sue Hayden. I mean, and I know I will never forget that. So uh, some of these leaders have built their brand, and fortunately I could relate to that and spend a lot of time. And I'm talking about, even my good old organization NIIT. There were, that's a philosophy that I still look up to some of the leaders that I worked with maybe 20, 25 years ago,
Yeah.
but I still value what they contributed.
Well, it's super important to talk about that personal branding and bring in some of those names of the leaders that have had, their coaching and their influence on us. I'm good friends with Dan to this day, and Sue Hayden, and I'll pass along the kind words that you said. Hopefully, they'll listen to this. Um, so and it's funny. You talk about the two ears and the one mouth, and I just remember my grandmother saying that. She'd, Matthew, God gave you two ears and one mouth for a reason. And my mother would sit right next to her and say, yes. And if you don't listen, I brought you into this world, I'm going to take you out of it. So, that's kind of how I grew up. Um, so Satya, what's a painful lesson that you've learned in this crazy business over the years that's shaped who you've become as a leader?
Like I said, in times of adversity, obviously, there are times when the second framework of mind, trust is challenged a little bit, uh, uh, but then that was a very, very small percentage to the people who stood up and who contributed every single day. To me, while micromanaging is not the quality that I really want to advocate. But it depends in the space that I'm in. I mean, if I'm in the army, then obviously I need to know. I mean, or you need to monitor every single minute. Or if I'm in, whatever different field. But in a business that I've been in a place where like you said, it's freshers, tenured, uh, people who came with certain aspirations, experience, uh, blending them together was very crucial. But there are times when people have let me down. But like I said, it's been a very very small percentage of uh, people who let me down.
But
But I
it,
also feel as much as sorry, go ahead.
no, please.
Yeah, I also feel I could have always done better because there are times when uh, as much as I say transparency and trust was key, there are people who probably didn't benefit from that. So I could have always done better because when you look at, while we had highest retention, but there were still people who just moved out, who were great contributors, just because that communication was shut for them, right? So if only, and I had a policy where anybody who left the company, even if they didn't report to me directly, I would do the exit interview. So I would be probably the last person they would meet. But I realized that I was doing it on their last day. It was too late for me to change anything. So I changed that to, I mean, it was a big learning. And it was painful because by then, even if the person wanted to stay back, he or she had made commitment to a new job or new role or something else that they're taking, and they couldn't let someone else down, right? So even as much as they wanted to stay back. So I changed that to say that, okay, I would interview or I would meet the person, not interview, I would meet the person the day he or she resigned so that at least I can get to hear and see if I can change that. Uh, but those were little learnings. I wouldn't say painful, but learning that I had to, rebuild in the framework that I worked on. And I'm happy to proud and happy, and I'm also proud to share that, a lot of people who worked with me, uh, I think they kind of uh, believed in that framework, and I believe anywhere they go for interviews, some of the guys who worked with me, they proudly share
Yeah.
if you were on the other side, they what worked for you, they would say AT&T.
Well, that's great. And while it may not have been the most painful lesson, it's something that shaped you because you, if you didn't feel that trust and transparency with somebody else, it's almost like as we come through and learn in our careers, we learn not just what to do, but we learn what not to do. So
Right.
we turn around, and with our people where we can control it, we try not to we try to exhibit and model the right behavior as much as possible. Um, so, Satya, let's pivot a little bit. You're at MLogica now. For the audience, can you talk a little bit about what MLogica does and what you love about working there?
Absolutely. um, uh, so MLogica is a company that's built over about 20 plus years now. We are in the space of what's called as the legacy modernization. So anything which is, it could be in database or it could be in mainframe space. Uh, Anything which is legacy. So we have built automated tools that helps accelerate the conversion uh, from any database to any target, could be any cloud. Likewise, mainframe, when you look at, you think about the good old days of COBOL and things like that. I mean, you will be surprised. There are large enterprises, especially financial institutions, are still running huge mainframe running on old COBOL codes, and a lack of support, lack of talented skill set in the market always puts their business at risk. So we are in that business of building automated tools that help ease the process of migrating to a newer, modernized environment. Um, what I like about my job, fortunately, like I said, I've always been blessed to be amongst the right set of people. I do have great, talented people within, my organization. My boss gives me the space that I need to execute a plan. I can walk up to him anytime when I need help. He can call me anytime to give me a feedback. So to the extent, because I'm running global teams, and I've done in the past, but right now with more vigor and more, you know, energy. I mean, I think, I was just telling you casually, my hours of sleep has reduced, but I think my passion and energy has been probably highest in my entire career space at this fag end of my professional career. So I think I'm loving every single minute. And I believe I'm able to add value. I'm able to contribute to the growth of the organization, and I'm hoping I'm also. I mean, you won't believe, Matt. I've few people who are in my team are the ones who worked with me in good old days. So,
I'm
so
not surprised by that. I'm not. I'm sure there's a line of people that want to come work with you and for you. So that doesn't
yeah.
surprise me at all. So Satya, because our business at Coachum is about helping managers become better coaches, and we built a technology, a platform, a coaching execution platform to help that. This podcast is about building a community of people who care about others. So the focus is coaching. And usually people like yourself who care about coaching and developing others have had that behavior modeled for them. And I know you've mentioned a few names along the way, but who is somebody in your life, in your career, whose coaching on to you has had a positive impact?
So I may not have a kind of a session lined up today on a daily basis, or a regular coaching session, man. But I look up to people. I follow them. Obviously, along with my framework, um, I also had three unique qualities. Again, it's a rule of three, thanks to Dan's initiative at Oracle that I learned. So I'll touch upon that. But one of the fundamental, people that I looked all through my life, and even today, even if they're not around with me, my parents, right? I learned so much from my dad, um, who was in a very, very influential position, but integrity, honesty is something that and humility is something that I've learned from him. So outstanding qualities. Growing up in my younger days, I hated because I wanted a lot of comfort. I wanted to use his position back in India, in a role you get a lot of perks and a lot of benefits, which most family can use. A simple example: my dad used to get the government phone, which is paid by the government, but he would lock it. I have never made a single phone call, because he said, that's not for you. The government gives me for my role, not for my family.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to hate him because I used to had to go to my friend's house to make a call. Those days phones were
Yeah.
expensive. I don't want to sound ancient, but
Yeah.
it was so some of the qualities like that. So I really hated those days. But when I look back, these are things that you can't coach. These are integral value systems that makes people good, better, or the best, right? So to me, I'll always look up my father. My mother was always energetic, always. If I have built a good network of people today, it's all because of her. My mom, as much as my dad was very strict, she was always out to help people. Anyone could reach out. So that's the humble learning that I've had from the beginning, and always with a smile, right? I mean, there are days which was very tough, but your problems are for yourself, but you don't have to rub it on someone else.
Hmm.
So they've been always great. I also, there are a couple of people that are in my previous organization that I worked with. Chairman R.S. Pawar, Rajendra Singh Pawar of NIIT, V.K. Tadani, and Arvind Thakur. They, even today, I look up to him because I've come many, even when I left that organization. Uh, yeah, I remember one of the founding members said, "Why are you leaving? You spent so much time." Uh, so I said, "Look, I'll try this new jig. If I don't, I'll come back to you." So he said, "Hey, anyways, you're coming back. Why leave?" So, so I mean, that's the kind of branding they built around. So I always look up to him. Of course, Dan forever for some of the outstanding things. And I don't know whether I need to call this out, but Rudy Corsi, he's not with us
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
He's the he's single-handedly responsible for me traveling to US. I wouldn't have come here to US, but Rudy said, "No, I want you to be here." And he made this whole process, along with Robin, made this whole journey far smoother. And I can't believe 11 years now I'm in US, and I kind of uh, enjoyed my stint here, and loving it every single day. There are many people I
Yeah.
may not have called, but there are a lot of them, including you, Matt. I mean, I think I still remember your book reading sessions. I mean, which is such a powerful impact on many lives at Oracle that we work together.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words, and I'm sure the all those other folks would as well. So, Satya, as we close up here, we talk about coaching. You can go anywhere with this question. Who's your favorite coach? And when I mean coach, like a name maybe other people would know, somebody that's in the spotlight, a celebrity. Maybe it's cricket, maybe it's something else. But who would be your favorite coach, and what attributes about that coach are um, uh, are important to you?
I would probably go back to one of the great cricketing personalities. His name is Sachin Tendulkar. Sachin is one of the world's greatest batsmen. Um, I think someone who consistently stood on top of the game every single time, very well respected, dealt with many difficult challenges, because those days Indian team was not as good as it was today. There were teams like West Indies who were physically very strongly built, England, which was far more talented and who invented this game. And so there were, difficult times because the techniques or the equipment that we used, but what was consistent was the skill set that Tendulkar had. And he's inspired many, many, many generations in India
Yeah.
to take the bat. And today, cricket is in the US as well. So there is a huge league that's going to come up. The World Cup matches just came in here. So Tendulkar, I think, apart from standing with the most difficult times and being a consistent performer, I would say his humility. Again, he's one of the most sought of a guy in the world, but so down to earth.
Mm.
So you sometimes fame is temporary, right? You can everything has a life cycle.
Yeah.
But I think in those days, if you have stood your ground and the way you dealt with will be long lasting.
Mm.
Another completely different personality that I want to quote is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Mm.
Again, not in terms of the humility, but someone whose consistency and hard work, the passion that he works, he's getting to close to 40 years now. He's still on top of the world in a soccer game.
So should Ronaldo play in the next World Cup, Satya?
I would, because he may not have. So sometimes it may not be the skill set. He may not have the pace, but the sheer presence. I mean, he plays for. He just played in the Euro Cup today, and just concluded. People all over the world just tuned the TV set just to watch the man on the field. Right, him just being surely on the field, maybe even for 5 minutes, is it so much value to the game. I think a lot more kids would come and watch him.
Yeah. Well, for the money. That's why, yeah, there's a lot of controversy about that because he brings in he sells the tickets, but
Yeah,
Portugal didn't go as far as they wanted to. I
yeah.
just became a soccer fan this year, so I'm trying to show off
Oh,
my
nice.
knowledge.
Yeah,
Uh,
nice, nice.
uh, so Satya, I think that's a good place to leave it. You've invested a lot of time with me and with our audience today. I really appreciate that. We covered a lot of ground. We talked about accountability, trust, transparency. We talked about the importance of surrounding yourself with positive, curious people. We talked about the importance of personal branding. So really appreciate the conversation today.
Hey, Matt, thank you. As always, wonderful to catch up with you. I'm glad that we have stayed in touch. Again, that talks about huge branding that you built, Matt. I couldn't say no to you. Thank you again. This is I'd love to stay in touch with you, and thank you for this opportunity.
All right. And for everybody out there that's watching and listening, thanks for doing so. If you liked what we were doing and what we're bringing, let us know. Comment on LinkedIn, comment on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. Let us know what you'd like to see. Let us know who guests you'd like to hear from. We want to bring content to you that's interesting and that's actionable and helps make what you do just a little bit easier. So until next time, coach them if you want to keep them. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Coach2Scale, How Modern Leaders Build Coaching Cultures. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at coachem.io. That's COACHEM.io. And follow us on Twitter at CoachemNow. See you all next week. Thanks for joining. And remember, coach them if you want to keep them.